We gather at a time of national crisis as the coronavirus epidemic impacts our nation and the wider world. For the first time in our history, every state and territory in our land are under disaster declarations. And as you well know, at the President's direction, we've marshaled the full resources of the federal government. And in partnership with governors and state and local health officials, we've launched a whole of government approach to meet this moment. And like all of you have done throughout your time here, even in those difficult recent days that have passed, just like you, the American people have risen to the challenge. They, like you, have met this moment with courage, resilience, and strength. The same strength and love of country that carried each of you to this day. And it is the strength that will carry our nation through these challenging times to be stronger than ever before. As America contends with what President Trump rightly calls the invisible enemy, through great hardship here at this historic place, you will commence your duties to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And for that, you have the thanks and admiration of the American people. America is the land of the free because we are the home of the brave. And you are the brave. From the moment the Air Force Academy was established, great Americans have stood here, trained here, and more than 51,000 Air Force officers have joined the long blue line as graduates of this academy. They include 35 Rhodes Scholars, 42 astronauts, Medal of Honor recipients, and countless other heroes. 4 years ago, you stepped forward to join the ranks, and we rightly honor each and every one of you, those who are here and those who are not. Some of the most talented young people in America apply to come here, and yet only 1 out of every 10 nominees makes the cut. You made it through. You made the cut. You made it through 5 weeks of Beast. You've run the Rock. You had your hundreds night. And as America knows, you completed one of the most challenging semesters in the histories of the Air Force Academy. You did it, class of 2020. You proved yourself. And today you will graduate from this storied institution. And you will become officers in the United States Armed Forces. And to all of you that will take on those new responsibilities, let me assure you, you will be entering a military that is better equipped and better financed and better supported than any military in American history. Under your Commander-in-Chief's leadership, we've made historic investments in our national defense. We've made the strongest military in the history of the world stronger still. And you'll be joining that military and making it even stronger. Nearly half of you are going into pilot training, I'm told. And you'll go on to fly some of the most sophisticated aircraft ever known to man. 31 of you will fly unmanned aircraft, keeping watch and taking action on battlefields around the world. defending our troops and defending our freedom. And dozens of you will ensure that our military remains as dominant in space as we are on land and sea and air. You know, just 2 years ago, President Trump laid out a bold vision for American leadership in space. And last December, the president made that vision a reality when he put his signature on a historic law that created the sixth branch of our armed forces, the United States Space Force. And I'm proud to stand here today. It's 86 members of the Air Force Academy class of 2020 will commission as the first company-grade officers of the Space Force. And I'm proud to report to all of you and all of you gathered here that nearly 10 years from the last time American astronauts launched into space from our native soil, thanks to the President's leadership, NASA just announced that next month, American astronauts will return to space on American rockets from American soil. And some of you may be flying those rockets in the years ahead. You know, we live in a remarkable moment in the history of our armed forces. The class of 2020, this is your day. But you know you didn't get here on your own. You know, back in Indiana, we have an old saying that when you see a box turtle on a fence post, one thing you know for sure is he had help getting there. And I know each and every one of you know that's especially true with such accomplished men and women seated before me. You've been taught by some of the best military faculty anywhere in the world. You've been supported by your fellow cadets on those long days and late nights. But long before you arrived on campus, your families were there. Your moms and dads, your brothers and sisters. And I know family is especially important to this class of 2020. I was told on the way here, 51 of you have siblings who are already Air Force Academy graduates. 5 of you have 2 siblings who are alumni. 63 of you are children of Air Force Academy graduates. And I even heard that 4 of you, both of your parents, are Air Force Academy alum. You know, your families couldn't be here because of the extraordinary times in which we live, but we know they're watching from afar. And they couldn't be more proud of each and every one of you. And I know what I'm talking about. You see, I don't know what it's like to sit in that chair you're sitting in, or to wear that uniform. My life didn't take me into the uniform of the United States. But I am the proud father of a United States Marine, and the father-in-law of a Naval Academy graduate. So I can testify firsthand. I know just how your parents are feeling right now. And they couldn't be more proud. So would you all mind just getting on your feet and showing your family and your friends and your loved ones how much you appreciate all they've done for you for all these years? They deserve it. And your family should be proud of all you've accomplished. You know, I had a chance to spend some time with some of the members of the class of 2020, and I couldn't be more impressed. You know, it was just a little over a month ago, Cadet first class from Cleveland actually came to the White House. He actually won a cybersecurity competition against more than 1,000 federal employees. I met him. His dad, who's a retired Army colonel, and his mom, Kristen, were with him. I know they're watching today. Now, I asked him how he had won against 1,000 federal employees, and his answer was simple. I go to the Air Force Academy. You know, I'm told he has a scholarship to go to graduate school at Carnegie Mellon, but today he becomes an officer in the United States Air Force. Would you all just give a round of applause to a fellow cadet, the inaugural winner of the President's Cup cybersecurity competition, Sears Schultz. I also heard another inspiring story of a graduating cadet. I'm told he grew up in some tough circumstances in Fort Worth, Texas. 4 years ago, he became the first in his family to go graduate from high school. He's the former captain and MVP of the Air Force Falcons basketball team. And today, he becomes the first in his family to graduate from college and becomes an Air Force officer. Would you please join me in congratulating Cadet First Class Lavelle Scotty. Well done, Lavelle. I mention these two because they're really emblematic of all of you. And they just show the caliber of this graduating class. You've come from the rest of us, but you're the best of us. You're the elite. You step forward to serve your nation. You endured the rigors of training here at the Air Force Academy, and you've done so under some of the most difficult circumstances in the history of this storied institution. C.S. Lewis once wrote that courage is not just one of the virtues, it is the form of every virtue at the testing point. In this time of trial and testing for you and for our nation, you have demonstrated courage. And you're an inspiration to every American. And America is being tested. And while there are signs that we are making progress in slowing the spread, as we stand here today, more than 700,000 Americans have contracted the coronavirus, and tragically, more than 37,000 of our countrymen have lost their lives. But as each of you has shown in your time here, and as the American people always show in challenging times, when hardship comes, Americans come together. We rise to the challenge, and the courage and compassion and generosity of the nation you will defend are shining through every day. You see it in the doctors and nurses on the front lines, caring for the sick and the most vulnerable. You see it in first responders from Seattle to New York City, who've gone into harm's way, and even after some became ill, went right back to work after they recovered. You see it in the farmers and the truckers and the grocers keeping food on the table, in the auto workers making tens of thousands of invaluable pieces of medical equipment that will save American lives. You see it in businesses large and small, putting the health and safety of their workers and their customers first. And you see it in the churches, synagogues, and places of worship that every day have been coming alongside those in need and offering comfort and counsel to a sheltered nation. You see it in everyday Americans. But in these challenging times, as we've seen on this campus, we also see it in the American military. Like the thousands of active duty military medical personnel that are deployed in hot spots across the nation. Like the citizen soldiers of the National Guard that are active in states across the country, supporting our healthcare workers and first responders. And you see it in the response of the Air Force medical personnel, even at this hour, deployed in New York City, relieving those devoted healthcare workers in their time of need. Or the airmen who literally flew millions of medical supplies from Europe to the United States on C-17s. Or the airmen who've actually been bringing Americans stranded overseas home. America has shown, like all of you, that we are a nation of courage. And with the courage, strength, and compassion of the American people, we'll get through this. We'll protect the most vulnerable, and we will heal our land. The American people are doing their duty. Now comes your turn to do yours. To defend the people of this nation. And this we know you will do. For long after the coronavirus is defeated, your mission will go on. So take what you learned here and put it into practice. On behalf of your Commander-in-Chief, to all the new officers of the Air Force and the Space Force, in these challenging times at home and across the wider world, I admonish you. Be vigilant. Mind your mission. Respect the unified chain of command. Take care of each other and all of those who report to you. And never doubt as officers that every decision you make matters to the American people and to the security of this nation. And remember, to lead others, you must lead yourself first. Be men and women of integrity. People follow people they trust. The integrity of the upright has always guided us. Be diligent to cultivate these virtues as you've done here at this great academy, and you will lead those airmen with great distinction. Give America your best every day. The American people are counting on you. And given the long and storied history of American air power, we know we can. As has been mentioned already, this day, April 18th, is a special day for you and for the history of American air power. It was on this day in 1942, just 4 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor. An attack that was not just a day that lives in infamy, but it shocked the nation and pulled us into war. But on this day, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle led 16 B-25 bombers off the USS Hornet for an attack on Tokyo 668 miles away. And they succeeded. That mission by American air power inspired the nation. It gave the American people confidence that we would prevail. And I believe with all my heart that for Americans looking on from around the country at this very hour, seeing you brave men and women setting off on your mission to defend this nation, that on this day, you'll also inspire confidence that we will prevail against the invisible enemy in our time as well. So whether your service takes you into the wild blue yonder or out into the stars, always remember that you're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, by heroes who have passed through these halls, fought the good fight, defended freedom in their time as surely as you will in yours. Like a fighter pilot named Bob Hoover, the great exemplar of the class of 2020. And finally, as you take to the air or space, I hope in my heart that you will know that you do not go alone. You will go with the confidence of your commander-in-chief. You will go with the support and prayers of the American people. And I hope that you may ever know that he who brought you this far will never leave you or forsake you. For as the old book says, if you rise on the wings of the dawn, if you settle on the far side of the sea, even if you go up to the heavens, there his hand will guide you. His right hand will hold you fast. So congratulations to the Air Force Academy class of 2020. New officers all in the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force. On behalf of your Commander-in-Chief and a grateful nation, thank you for your service. Aim high, fly, fight, and win. And always keep that target in sight. God bless our Air Force, our Space Force, and God bless the United States of America.
Vice President Pence wrapping up his commencement address at the United States Air Force Academy in a most unusual graduation ceremony as we look out at the cadets there, now spaced 6 feet apart. They marched in 8 feet apart, and not in the audience, because there isn't an audience, is their families or those who have supported them through this time. And Kristen, it really is striking as we now are in week 6 or so of the coronavirus crisis, how many milestones and momentous events in people's lives are now being changed by this, whether it's birthdays or anniversaries or weddings or graduations that we are now heading into that won't happen and will be very different.
That's right, and Vice President Mike Pence, he said, well, this does not look like a usual graduation. He said this is an awesome sight and that he wouldn't be anywhere else. And he also talked quite a bit about the Space Force. 86% of the cadets that graduated there today are going to be joining the new force. And he also mentioned the fact that NASA just announced that it is going to be attempting to launch American astronauts on American-made rockets from American soil next month. And the Vice President noted that some of you sitting here today, some of the cadets graduating today could someday be on those rockets. So I thought that was a pretty neat moment as well for those cadets.
Real quick, Kristen, as you've spent so much time covering the Space Force and obviously also the NASA program in general, how are they going to try to launch this rocket with Americans on board, given the idea of quarantines and social distancing and the coronavirus?
It is a fascinating question, and I think it is still being worked out. I mean, like everywhere else, it's going to be, these astronauts are going to be launched on SpaceX rockets and whatnot. So social distancing is definitely going to make things a bit of a challenge, but they say they are going to give it a go and try to do it in the next few weeks.
Yeah, they've always quarantined astronauts before their launch. This will be no different. We'll be right back.